Welcome to the Lifestyle Builders Podcast, Show 21. In our last episode, we answered your questions in one of our Q&A series episodes. Today, we're chatting about why you haven't started your business yet. Welcome to the Lifestyle Builders Podcast, where we bring you real-life strategies on starting and growing a business and finding financial freedom without sacrificing the life you have with your loved ones. We are your hosts, Tom and Ariana Sylvester, and we are married, we're parents, and we're serial entrepreneurs. This podcast is for those who want more out of life. We'll show you how to take the vision you have and create the business that will help you achieve it. Join us as we share practical steps, real-life stories, and help you become a lifestyle builder. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. All right, so I just want to kick this one off because, there's a lot of fear around doing things. And we've each had fear, and I just want to show people something that you overcame fear with.
Now let's chat with today's featured guest, Ariana Sylvester. Ariana, are you prepared to ignite?
This girl is on fire.
I love it. Accidental entrepreneur.
So for those that don't know, Ariana was on Entrepreneur on Fire with JLD, and as you heard, so if you've listened to Entrepreneur on Fire, basically he kicks off every show with, "Are you prepared to ignite?" And I had been on the show a couple months before, and you were going to jump on, and you're like, how should I kick it off? I'm like, do Alicia Keys. You actually performed Alicia Keys in high school.
I did.
And you're like, should I do it? I'm not really sure. What will people think? And I'm like, just do it. Has anyone ever sang to, John's had 2,000 people on the podcast.
No.
Has anyone ever sang an intro to him? No, you'll stand out. And, kudos for doing it. You faced your fear. You went out and did it. And you sang "This Girl is on Fire" on EO Fire.
I did.
Boom.
It was a little scary.
It was a little awesome. I was upstairs. I was like, yeah, go get it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was going to actually pull through, but I guess, mistake or good thing that I did was told a friend about it, and then they were like, yeah, you have to do it. And I was like, oh crap, I actually have to do it now.
Yeah, well, of course. Here's the thing, we all get so afraid of doing things, and I mean, I still have this, but for a long time I was really afraid of what people were going to think about me. And I've probably talked about this before, but once I got over my ego, I call it my ego, other people might call it different things, and you realize that none of it's about you. And to be honest, people aren't going to remember you. They're not going to remember the dumb things you did. So you might as well do them anyways and just enjoy life.
Yeah. And I used to, believe it or not, I used to have some serious stage fright when I was younger. And over the years in high school, I really had to kind of combat that, to push past that nervousness and that heart beating and everything seizing up to actually go on stage and sing. And that was, I think that was my junior year of high school. I sang Alicia Keys, and then I was also in the musicals in school. So that helped me to get over my stage fright, because it was, it was a performance. You were going out and you were putting on the show, and that was just a part of the show, was the singing in front of people. So once I kind of did that, it was enjoyable. I liked doing it, but I was just afraid of doing it in front of other people. I got past that part, and now I still don't sing in front of a ton of people all the time. I am in a choir, so I occasionally have solos.
Except the church with
well, you know what?
hundreds
a lot
of people.
No, I mean a lot of people. I'm not going to get up on stage in front of thousands of people and sing, probably. But
you say that.
I say that. Now it's probably going to happen at some point. Oh gosh. But yeah, that's one of the things that I had to get over. I love singing. I've always loved singing, and it was always something that I just did for myself. And what I found was there were a lot of people that wanted to share that with me. And the biggest thing I had to get past was, it's okay if you mess up sometimes. The people that love you and the people that support you are not going to hold that against you because you screwed up one time, or because you sang a wrong note, or you said the wrong words. And the more you do it, the less and less fear you have around it. So you get used to it, and it becomes even more enjoyable, because now you don't have that fear attached to it of I like to sing, but I don't like to sing in front of people.
Well, and here's the reality. Nobody's going to remember half of what you do anyways. I mean, you can screw up, and guess what? Like think about when you've been in a presentation. Like, do you remember everything this person did or like who screwed up? Like, no, a week later, everything's forgotten. So at the end of the day, it's not going to make a major impact, even if it really looks dumb.
Yeah. So why are we talking about this topic?
We're talking about this because today we want to talk about like why you haven't started your business. And some of what we just talked about are some of the reasons that cause that. And the number one reason when we talk to people for not starting their business is fear.
Yep. And actually, I want to just jump in and put in a little side note. We're talking about why haven't you started your business yet? But for those of you that are already in business, this can also apply to why haven't you done that new big idea that you have or that new big thing that you need to do for your business. It all relates back. Fear is the number one thing that keeps people back from starting a business and also growing their business, doing things that need to be done.
Yeah, so what's funny is when you always talk to people, they're always like, well, I'll do that when this thing happens or when I know more. Here's the reality. You're never going to know enough. And even when you know enough and you start something, you're going to then get into a whole new area where you don't know the next thing.
Yep.
Like part of being an entrepreneur, to be honest, is being comfortable, being uncomfortable, and not maybe knowing everything that's going to happen, but knowing the process that you're going to go through and knowing like who you're going to lean on, how you're going to identify and solve the problem that comes up, because there's going to continuously be new things that come up.
Yeah.
And that fear is always going to be there. I mean, if you talk to the most successful people, they always have fear still. We actually did a podcast with Dale Hensel where we talked all about fear. And he's like, fear is just basically you saying, pay attention.
Yep.
This is important.
To tell you to pay attention.
Yeah. And the way he framed that was so good because it's like, look, we always have fear, but it's just, what do you do with that? And do you let that hold you back from, what you want to achieve and being able to help others, or do you just pay attention and listen and realize this is an important thing?
Yeah. And as you said, not knowing enough is not a reason not to get started. Because you can always learn what you need to know. There is so many resources on the internet. There's so many books. There's podcasts. There's YouTube. I mean, you can literally go on and type into Google, how do I do blank? And it will come up with...
Be careful when you do that. You never know what responses you're going to get when you type that into Google.
I always like to see what the prompts are when you type something
it's
like
interesting.
that. It's really funny.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, you can literally type that and get thousands of answers from Google on how to do this one thing. And you can go through and choose like, well, I like how this person does it, so I want to learn how to do it this way. And you can go on and basically educate yourself on anything that you need to know about starting your business and running your business.
Yeah, well, and part of it is like you don't know what you don't know. One of the best ways to figure out what you don't know is to jump in and do it.
Yep.
And then the stuff you didn't know, now you'll suddenly know you didn't know, and then you'll be able to figure out what you need to do to make the knowing available.
Oh, right. I think you just said a no like 5 times in that sentence, which is ridiculous. There's also a couple other kinds of fear that people commonly come up against when getting into entrepreneurship. And one of those is a big one. It's a fear of failure.
Oh, absolutely.
So I have this idea, but what if it doesn't work? So they just never start the idea.
Yeah, well, in this whole topic of failure, I think a lot of it, at least like for people in the U.S., like a lot of it's cultural and in our society where we don't want to fail. But what I see, and I've seen this working with different companies and even with ourselves, failure is bad when you avoid it. And then it happens infrequently and it's big. Failure's good when it happens often and it's small and we can learn from it. So what tends to happen is the people that avoid failure end up not having a lot of failures, but when they have them, they're big and they're like catastrophic. Whereas the people that embrace failure and say like, how do I fail on a daily basis? But how do I fail on a small scale? Those people are going to be so much better off.
Yeah, I think it's also it's how people frame it in their minds of what failure means.
Oh, absolutely.
Because to me, something not working doesn't necessarily mean that you failed. It just means it's not working. Let's try something else. But a lot of people like, oh, I'm starting my business and blah, blah, blah. I'm doing all this work and nothing's working. And they look at that as a failure, as opposed to let's dive into why it's not working and figure out how you can I shift it to make it work? Or was this idea just not a valid idea and I got to go and try something else?
Yep.
But, people see that too. Like, oh, well, I had this one idea and that didn't work out. And then I had this other idea and that didn't work out. And they just like see all of these things as, oh, I failed. And as you said, I think we kind of have a cultural taboo that exists around failure, that it's a bad thing and you should never, ever fail. Like, those expectations are incredibly high.
Well, and part of this too is like we kind of glamorize entrepreneurs and we say, oh, they, the overnight successes, like that's what the media likes to talk about. But here's the reality. The successful entrepreneurs, they probably have a whole series of failures in their background.
But nobody talks about it.
Yeah, we had so many failed businesses that we legit did a podcast episode on all of our failed businesses.
It's like the graveyard of our failed businesses podcast.
And that's the reality. And you oftentimes don't see it. Like you see somebody after they're successful, but I mean we've worked with so many entrepreneurs. We know so many entrepreneurs. Yeah. Everyone has failures along the way, so it shouldn't be a fear of failure. Know that everybody has those, and those are often necessary steps to achieve success.
What about the not often talked about fear of success?
What? That doesn't exist.
It definitely does exist.
It's funny, because people often, they're like, well, why would I fear success? But oftentimes it kind of goes back into the unknown, like, well, what would change if I was successful? Or you get kind of that imposter syndrome of like, well, who am I to be successful?
Yeah.
And a lot of it goes into that unknown. And it's funny, people don't realize that, but oftentimes they'll hold themselves to a certain spot because, what if,
they're afraid to go further.
Yeah. I mean, will I lose my friends? What will my family think about it? How will this change our lives?
What will happen if I make a lot of money?
Yeah. Like, what if I'm not the person that is able to do that? What if I'm not good enough for that? Like, all these things kind of creep back in, and it's funny, that probably sabotages just as many, if not more, than the fear of failure, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's because it's harder to recognize.
Yeah.
You don't know that you're telling yourself those stories in your head, but that it's like you're painting this picture of, if I'm successful, this. And then that's what you keep bringing yourself back to. And instead of just letting yourself be successful and seeing what happens and adjusting things as need be, a lot of people are like, no, I'm just not going to go there.
Well, I had a guy the other day who was like, I don't want to grow my business more because that's going to mean that I have to spend more time in my business. And it's like, no, the reality of growing your business is to actually be able to spend the same amount, if less time, because you're going to be able to hire a team and put systems in place. So he was just thinking like he was stressed out because of all the stuff he's got to do now. That's not really a symptom of success. But as you start growing more, the reality is you can actually have a better time.
Yeah.
But people don't see that. They just think that it's going to be harder or more difficult.
Yeah, I think it's based on a lot of assumptions.
Yes.
Fear of success.
That's a really good way to put it.
Everyone assumes that I'm going to change a certain way. Money's going to change me a certain way. Success is going to change me a certain way. People are going to judge me if I'm in the spotlight. They have all these assumptions of what happens when you're successful, but that's not all necessarily true. And you have complete control over who you become as a successful person.
Well, and here's what we find a lot of times, especially when you talk about like money doesn't make people good or bad. It amplifies who you already are. I think the same thing with success, right? Now, sure, it's easy to kind of, go off of your values or whatever else. But for the most part, being successful or making more money ultimately is just going to amplify who you already are.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So another area which kind of ties into the fear a little bit. A lot of people don't start because they have a lack of support and a lack of confidence.
Yeah.
Which obviously the lack of support often tends to be a part of the lack of confidence, because when you don't have that support system behind you, you don't have anybody there cheering you on and like waiting for you to succeed. Some of those people are waiting for you to fail. And then that can cause you to have some extreme paralysis to starting your business.
Yeah, well, I mean, most people are not entrepreneurs.
Yep.
So what that means is that you're going to be going against the grain if you start a business. And, especially when it comes to friends and so there's a great quote by Jim Rohn, like, you are the 5 people you surround yourself with the most. And that can be a good thing or a bad thing. And what you'll find is that, let's say you have a job right now. The people that are around you most probably also have jobs. They're probably also making somewhere around the same income as you. So if you suddenly decide that you're going to be an entrepreneur and you're going to shift, now all those people around you, they may not understand, they may not agree, and it may also make them fear or feel like insignificant or insecure, because it's like, well, you're doing something different. Like, I don't have the guts to do something like that, so maybe I'm going to not support you, or maybe I'm going to tear you down. So there's definitely a lot that can come up when you suddenly decide you want to do something different.
Yep.
And this is like, so we're talking business here, but this also comes up with, like, if you change your lifestyle. So if you go from being very unhealthy to suddenly eating healthy, a lot of times your friends are going to say stuff.
If
right?
you go from being single to being married and having kids,
Yeah.
a lot of times your circle of friends changes.
So, I think one of the things with this is realizing that as you take on this path of an entrepreneur, some of your circles may change. Now, it doesn't mean you have to like lose friends or cut them off, but what you're definitely going to do is start bringing new people into your circles.
Yep.
And those are likely going to be people that are thinking like you, are entrepreneurs, have had some success, that type of thing.
Yeah. Well, and there's a whole other area too of where when people lack support, a lot of people see their families and close friends, when they don't jump on board with their ideas, they see that as a lack of support. Whereas a lot of times, I hear the cat is driving the child nuts in the other room, if you can hear yelling. A lot of times that lack of support is actually covering a fear of worrying about you.
Oh, absolutely.
So a lot of times you'll have, your parents and they'll, why don't you just go get a stable job? I hear this from a lot of entrepreneurs. Oh, my family thinks I should just go back and get a job. They don't understand entrepreneurship. They don't understand the fire that burns inside of you true entrepreneurs who can't do anything else, and you have to do this thing that's crazy and no one's ever heard of. Their first concern is for you, and they want to make sure that you're well taken care of. They want to make sure that you're doing okay and that you've got food and a roof over your head and like all of the base needs that your parents always have worried about for you. A lot of times that worry can be covered by some of the negative comments and the things that they're saying. They don't always translate well. People don't always say things in a nice way or in the way that they mean them. So a lot of times when your family's ragging on you for like, oh, did you get a job yet? A lot of that comes from the base fear of them worrying about you. And then a lot of times too, like thinking about like, well, if this doesn't work, I'm going to have to take care of my kid again, because as a parent, that's kind of what's always on your mind. So, just thinking about that when you're going to get started into your business, know that your family and friends are going to have concerns. They're going to be worried. So, the best thing to do is to talk to them as much as possible and to explain to them why you feel the need to do this, how you're going to do it, and to reconfirm with them that you will be okay, that you have a plan, that, you've got a business that is making a certain amount of money and you're working and you have, money coming in. Like, those are the things that they're worried about.
Well, and here's the thing. So some family members might just not understand. Some might never be supportive.
Correct.
And that's the same thing with friends too, because, oftentimes what people say is more a reflection of them than it is of you.
Yeah.
So if somebody's tearing you down, it likely is because they're not happy with their life, or they're not comfortable that you're willing to go out and take the risk, but they don't have the guts to do that. But, something you said there, it was funny. So when I finally left my job, I remember, and we had our real estate business for 10 years. We had our wine and liquor store for 6 years. We had this business for a couple of years. And it was funny. I was here I was in our living room with my mom, and she's just like, okay, so how are you guys going to be okay? Like, how are you going to make money? And I'm like, Mom, we've got 3 different businesses and we've had them for a long time. The businesses pay us money. And then a couple minutes later, she's like, yeah, but like, I don't understand. Like, how are you guys actually like paying for your bills? And I'm like, Mom, we have business. But it wasn't that my mom is dumb or anything, but it's just that if you've always been an employee, it's so hard to wrap your head around what it means to not be an employee. So exactly to your point, a lot of people just don't understand because they've never been exposed to that world.
Yeah.
And all they know is what they've seen on Shark Tank or what they've seen, kind of in the tabloids, and they hear all the risk around there. Whereas, in fact, I was talking to somebody the other day. We had a call, and he's like, I'm trying to get my wife on board, and we were talking about risk, and she sees being an entrepreneur as a risk, and I see having a job as a risk. And so we hung up. A couple hours later, he emails me. He goes, after we talked, I actually just got let go of my job. So it's a great example of there's risk in everything. A lot of times it's just how you see risk is based on your background and what you know.
Yeah. Yeah. My parents were worried about it too. I think my mom asked me multiple times, like, we have our phone calls every couple days, and her first thing was, how are you guys doing? Is everything okay? You guys doing okay? Like, reconfirming. And I'm like, yes, we are okay. And, you know, making sure they know, like, if we need help, we will tell you.
Yeah, well, and this is where it's so important that as you embark on this journey, you find new people to bring into your circle. So you find people that are where you want to be, find people that align with your values, and bring them in, because it's going to be a challenging journey, and you need to have people around you to give perspective or to be able to talk to or to give guidance.
Go to local meetups, find other entrepreneurs in your area. I mean, if you're a parent, go and just have coffee with other parent entrepreneurs and you know, send the kids to the sitter or daycare for a couple hours.
Or come and join Family Entrepreneur Life and be surrounded
by... Or come and join
our
community and be surrounded by family entrepreneurs who have all sorts of different family situations going on. And also online, like, there's a bajillion Facebook groups that are like entrepreneur-y, depending on what niche. Dang it!
Wow,
niche. I was gonna
say you just butchered it. You weren't even on one side or the other. You just were like, I'm just gonna mold these two words together.
Niche you're in, you can most likely find like 5 entrepreneur groups that are surrounding that niche. Yeah. So just find some people, like, get some support, because those people are going through the same exact things that you're going through, or they have gone through that. So this is where you can go to say, hey guys, I was hoping to get this website done and I completely botched it, and now I'm behind schedule and blah, blah, blah. And you'll have people like, oh, I've been there. Oh, have you tried this? Oh, you could ask somebody for help because they're a genius on websites and they'll be able to help you in 5 minutes. But it's like having that support system of those people who've gone through the same struggles, who are having the same issues, and who are, you know, in the same mindset as you, can be huge to being successful in starting and growing your business.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next one is, it's kind of funny, and I was this way for a long time, but it's striving for perfection and trying to make everything perfect.
I don't need to say we were that way.
Absolutely.
I am a self-proclaimed perfectionist from long before I met you.
Well, I was going to say, you got the OCD tendencies.
Yes. Striving for perfection can stop you from doing a lot of things. When it comes to starting a business, like becoming an entrepreneur, if you try to wait until everything is perfect, the timing is perfect, you have enough money, you have the perfect idea, it's the perfect time in your life,
all the stars
you
align.
will never, ever, ever start your business.
Correct.
Like, you cannot wait for things to be perfect.
Well, what's that quote, like,
done is better than perfect?
Well, that's one.
Perfect.
The perfect time to start was yesterday,
Yeah.
or 20 years ago, or whatever it was.
Of them.
Yeah, I just probably butchered it too.
I think the perfect time to start was 20 years ago. It's probably close.
Well, and that's the reality. I mean, you're never going to know everything you need to know. And to be honest, one of the best ways to be able to progress and know what you don't know is by getting started. Mm-hmm. And, you know, part of this too is, it's not to say that you can't have quality, but the pursuit of perfection is just going to get you into more trouble than it is. And this is, especially when you start a new business, people want everything to look perfect.
Yep.
But here's the challenge. When you make everything perfect, one, it takes so much longer to launch. But two, when you finally launch it, there's a lot of problems that you never figured out because you didn't test it along the way.
Here's another one. People don't relate to perfect.
No. There's a reason we don't edit our podcast.
We don't edit the podcast.
Yeah, because, you know, you could try to have everything all buttoned up, but I mean, this is real life. This is what being an entrepreneur looks like.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I think who was it? I saw this quote the other day in a group. I think Jacqueline had it in her group, Jacqueline Malone. People buy from people. And when you put yourself behind a perfect website and a perfect marketing and sales production and a perfect launch and a perfect brand, all of those things make you unrelatable as a person.
Yep.
And some people will still buy you, though. There's a lot of people that buy from some of the brands that have that perfect sort of thing going. But when you're trying to sell to people, a lot of times you will lose people, especially in the service industry. I feel like maybe not so much in the products if you're selling retail or anything like that, but definitely in the service industry. When you are a person selling to another person a service that you are going to offer them, they want to know that you are an actual person.
Yeah, well, and I mean, so with all of this, like, oftentimes people are more interested in who you are, why you do what you do, etc. And it's funny, so much of entrepreneurship, of life, is counterintuitive. Like, I remember when I first started my real estate investing business, I thought I had to have this like big company and everything had to look perfect. And when I talked to people, I didn't want them to know it was just me. Mm-hmm. So I was like, we have a team. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Here's the funny part. Nobody wants to, like, if you're going to go buy somebody's house, they don't want to sell it to a team or to a company. But guess what? If you're a person and it's like, hey, I'm a new real estate investor. I'm trying to make this work, but I want to help you with your problem. And I want to work with you as a person, not hide behind this company name. You're actually going to be more successful. Mm-hmm. And it's so counterintuitive because early on, you don't have a lot of confidence. So you're like, well, I'm going to have this big business name and everything's going to look perfect. Yeah. If you just push that stuff aside and be you, you're going to be so much more successful.
You know what I think it comes from, though? I think it comes from the concept of professionalism equaling perfection.
Yeah.
Like, people see, I have to be professional. I have to look put together. I have to speak eloquently. I have to have a nice website and all of my things need to look pretty and professional. And like, I think a lot of that is where that perfectionist tendency comes from. And a lot of people coming from like corporate workspaces, everything in corporate always has to be very professional. You always have to do everything the way the company would expect you to do it. And people expect a certain sort of communication with you and blah, blah, blah. So when it comes to building a business, people see like, I need to look professional. I need to be like put together. People want to see that I'm a professional business owner. That's true, but professionalism doesn't automatically mean that everything has to look pretty and shiny and be perfect.
Well, and here's a great example of that. So I was consulting for an organization, and I went into one of the VP's office, and I sat down, and she's like, Tom, you're pretty good at getting naked. And I'm like, what do I say here? And then she's like, no, there's this book called Getting Naked, and it's basically about these two consulting firms, one that was like all professional and had everything tidied up, and another one that was just like, hey, we're going to get on a whiteboard and we're going to draw things out. And she's like, I feel like why you're successful and why we all love you is because you're just the firm that's going to come in and help us get stuff done. And she's like, you always talk about how you always need a whiteboard, and we go into a meeting and we don't necessarily have to have a buttoned up agenda to every minute. But that's the reality is when you can just be yourself. And when like that was like, I talk about this all the time, like getting over my ego. When I got past like, I have to look perfect and I have to have all the answers. And I started shifting to, let's work on getting the results and let's just do everything we can. And guess what? It might look stupid or I might ask a dumb question, but at the end of the day, we'll get there. That made the biggest impact on me and on the clients that I worked with. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it really, I mean, we could talk about that topic all day long. Let's talk about another big one that people have an issue with starting. They have a lack of resources. And usually those resources fall into a lack of time or a lack of money.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing with that. I mean, so we all have the same 24 hours.
I know you guys are probably sick of hearing this, but
I know
it's true.
And, one of the first things we do with people is we have them do a time audit. And more often than not, what people don't realize is that they're spending what they say they want out of their life and where they're spending their time isn't jiving. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot more time available than you think. You're probably just not prioritizing it right.
Yep.
When it comes to money, the reality is, especially early on, to test a business idea, you don't need much money at all. So depending on the type of business you have and whatever, you might need more later on. But to get started, you don't need a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Like to do that initial research, you do a lot of that for free or very low cost.
Yeah, and this is why you suggest when people get started, they start a service-based business because it really doesn't need a lot of money to start offering a service to people. But I mean, this is also something too. There are different ways to get started if you need money. there are private investors, there are angel investors, there are business bank loans, like there's Kickstarter. There's all these different ways now that you can get money to start a business, even if you don't have your own to go all in with. So don't let the lack of money stop you from starting. Figure out how you can do it. Look at, okay, I know I need this amount of money to start this business because I've done my research and I've looked at the numbers. If you need that amount of money, what are the steps you can take to go and get it? Because let's face it, that's what everyone out there does when they want to start a new product. I mean, all the people who go on Shark Tank, they had to start somewhere. Most of them have a prototype or something that they had to create. They needed money for that. So they found it somewhere, whether it was their own savings from family, savings from private investors. Like, find people, build out your idea enough to the point where you have validation and say, I know people want to buy this because I've tested it on the market, and get some people to invest in your business with you.
Yeah, and I mean, we had on our old podcast, the Serial Startups podcast, we did a whole episode on should you bootstrap your business. And in general, we're big fans, especially early on, of bootstrapping.
Yep.
And that can be putting your own money in, like you said, Kickstarter, pre-selling a product. Like, there's a lot of different ways out there. So oftentimes when people put these excuses up, they're really not excuses. They're covering for something else. Because, you know, for every excuse you can throw at us, we can give you 10 examples back of somebody that had that same challenge but was able to work past it.
Yeah, the excuse of time is my favorite.
Yeah.
Because I'm guilty of using it as well, obviously, many times. But this is the one where, you know, you get the, I don't have enough time. Well, there's a lot of people that don't. Well, no, but they're not in my situation. My situation's different. And I don't want to laugh at people because it's true.
I laugh
Your
at people.
situation is different, but so is everyone else's. And there are people out there that have a worse situation than you and have still figured out how to make it work. And I like to bring it back to one of our lifestyle builders, Lisa, who has 5 kids.
Oh my gosh.
Homeschools all 5 of her kids and has still built a business that's like huge, Canadian homeschooling business where she's got a ton of people in her audience, and she's really ramping up what she's doing with that this year. And I'm super excited. But this is somebody, and her husband works as a golf, something to do with golf. So he's gone like a large chunk of the year because they work such long hours as soon as the golf season starts. So, I mean, she's by herself with 5 kids, homeschooling them, and she's still had time to run.
I'm tired just hearing all that. Well, and that's the thing, you know, and it comes back to your mentality on things. So whenever you're talking that way, you have this victim mentality, and it doesn't matter how much people tell you, you're always going to come up with an excuse. Successful people are the ones that say, okay, not let me have an excuse for why I can't do it, but reframing it and saying, well, how can I do it? You know, sure, my situation is not like that person's, but how can I do it? Like, what do I got to do to make this thing work?
We know people who have started their business with only a couple hours a day to be able to, like 1 or 2 hours, I'm saying, like a couple. And they've been able to build up an audience and to build a business and actually bring in sales with only that amount of time per day.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of time that we don't realize is missing or that we lose. I mean, for example, when I used to commute to work, drive time is good for listening to audiobooks or podcasts. Or you throw Evernote up and you start talking about a blog post you're going to write, or just jotting down ideas you have. You can use lunch at work to be able to do that. You can wake up early. You know, there's a lot of different ways.
Look at all the moms out there that are building their business while their kids nap and then when they go to sleep at night.
Yeah. But if you're going to say, I don't have time, you never will. But if you're going to say, how can I make time?
How can I make the time? That is the quote of the day.
Yeah. And once you start thinking that way, you'll suddenly figure out ways to do it.
Yep. All right. This brings us to our very last topic, which I know I said fear was a big one, but I feel like this might be the second biggest one out of all of them. And it is ideas. You either don't have any or you have too many.
Usually it's the latter.
Usually it's the last one. I have actually known a couple people who are like, I want to start a business because I want the lifestyle that it can give me, but I don't know what to start. Like, I don't actually have any ideas on what I could start.
Well, I was going to say, it's so funny. And
it's very rare, but...
Well, if you guys listen to the episode that we did with Dale Hensel on identifying opportunities and taking action, once you figure out how to identify opportunities or how to think about ideas, it's like the Matrix. You're going to see them everywhere.
Well, we have another episode as well, how to find your unfair advantage.
Yeah.
Which talks about looking at what you're good at, look at what you're passionate about. What are those things that you could kind of combine into this awesome skill you could either make a business on or use to accentuate your business?
I was going to say, so we mentioned a couple resources. We'll put them in the show notes at tomandariana.com/21.
Yeah, woo, 21. All right, so
ideas.
It is the bane of most entrepreneurs because they do have too many. Most often, it's too many ideas that are keeping you from getting started because you literally don't know, like, which one do I pick to try out? And then it goes back to that fear of failure. Like, what if I pick the wrong idea and it sucks and I fail?
Well, and so what most entrepreneurs do is they say, I got 8 ideas. I'm going to do all of them at the same time.
Yes, that does often happen.
And here's, I don't even, like we talked about at one of the episodes, but multitasking, our productivity episode, we talked about the biggest productivity challenges that people have. And one of them is splitting your time and trying to multitask. And as an entrepreneur, that's one of the worst things you can do if you're trying to work on multiple ideas at once.
Please do not try multiple ideas at once. And this goes to if you've already started your business and you're trying to grow it, stop trying to do a million big projects at the same time. It just doesn't work. Split focus will mean that you spend a lot of time trying to build both of those ideas out, and neither one of them is going to work because you haven't just picked one to focus on.
Yeah, well, in like a lot of times, so people look at us and they see that we have 3 businesses, and then within each business, we typically have multiple streams of income. And they'll go and tell me, they're like, yeah, but Tom, all the wealthy people have multiple streams of income. And I say, yeah, but they started one at a time. Yeah. And that's the thing that people don't realize. When you're splitting your time between those, it is hard to start a business.
And there's 2 of us.
Yeah. But you've got to put all your effort in to get, it's kind of like a rocket ship, right? You got to get that momentum to get out of the gravitational pull of the earth. Same thing with starting a business. Like early on, there are so many challenges and you got to put all your attention in. So you don't want to split it between those. But what you want to do is say, let's get this one business or this one project working. And then once you get it set up, you get a process and team, then maybe you can do the next one and then do the next one.
Well, and everyone freaks out like, well, if I don't do it now, then I'm going to forget. Write it down.
That's what Evernote is for.
That's what Evernote's for. People keep track of all these ideas because we're not saying you can never do them. We're just saying you can't do them all together. So keep track of all these amazing ideas that you have because, one of them might be your ticket to building a hugely successful business. But you aren't going to know that if you don't take it one step at a time.
Yep. And so within Lifestyle Builders, we actually have a course called Concept to Cash. And what we do is we first start people off with the brainstorming process. Then we help them actually rate and kind of prioritize those ideas, get it narrowed down, and then help them pick one to test and to move from there. So that's the process that we take everybody through, and it helps people with both of this because if you have too many ideas that help you prioritize them, if you don't have any, it gives you a lot of different ways to think about how do you use your unfair advantage or how do you use the industry you're in or, opportunities that are available to come up with more ideas, rank them, and then pick the one that has the best opportunity of, making it work.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So this brings us to the homework section of the show. I want you to go back and think about what is the biggest thing that's stopping you from moving forward. Out of all the things we talked about today, or maybe you have something else completely, which one of those things is stopping you from moving forward with this new idea, this new business? Identify it, and then take some of the steps that we suggested and go and tackle it.
Like it.
That's my homework.
All right. I'm going to be unapologetic about this. Come and join Lifestyle Builders. We legit set this up for you. For people that are early on, haven't started a business, want to start a business, or have started it and need help growing it initially. Legit, you're not going to find a better opportunity out there. We charge $50 a month, $450 or $490 a year. If you buy the year, you get 2 months free. But it is legit the best resource for somebody starting a business. And if you're serious about making this work, so you can leave your job, so you can, live the dreams you want, a $500 investment or a $50 a month investment is nothing. So come join Lifestyle Builders. We want to help you guys get your business started and achieve those goals. And so you guys can find that at joinlifestylebuilders.com.
Unapologetic. I love it. Unapologetic. All right. What is the book you have for everyone today off your bookshelf?
I love this book.
It's a very interesting title.
So this book is The Power of Starting Something Stupid: How to Crush Fear, Make Dreams Happen, and Live Without Regret. So actually, hold on.
Oh.
So I use
bookmarks,
or I use business cards as bookmarks. And what's funny is I'll go back through some of my old books and I'll know when I bought it based on which business card is in there.
Which iteration of the business card?
So this one is an early on iteration here.
Wow.
If you guys see this.
Nice headshot in there, by the way.
I think, this is pretty bad. I think this is in front of our shower curtain.
It's definitely printed on the business cards from Staples.
Oh yeah, like the cheap stuff. I printed these on our own printer. Yeah, I can't tell you the number of iterations we've had on business cards.
You've had. I've
true.
only had 2.
Yeah, and our newest business card's the best. It's got you on one side, me on the other side, and last business card hopefully we'll ever have. But anyways, so the reason I picked this book is the title says it all: The Power of Starting Something Stupid. And there's a lot of good stuff in here, but it really talks about how to get past some of that fear. It talks about a lot of what we talked about here. But the key takeaway from here is every good idea, when somebody presented it, somebody said that's stupid. Mm-hmm. That'll never work, right? And if you look around, there are so many things that somebody called stupid and work. Oh, nobody would ever rent their room out in their house, but now we have Airbnb.
No one would ever use their own car to drive people around.
Yeah, now we have Uber. Nobody would ever
get rid of cable and stream shows off of one app.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing. Somebody's going to call your idea stupid. It's probably a lot of people. But this book really gives you the mindset plus some of the practical things to say, you know what, when somebody calls your idea stupid, that's actually a sign that you should probably go forward with it, right? So really good book on mindset, and it walks through a variety of different stories, lessons, and this was big for me when I ended up reading it a couple years ago.
All right, you guys. It's been another great episode with Tom and Ariana, your hosts and lifestyle builders.
And as always, I want you guys to remember that it's your life, your business, your way. We'll see you next time.
Bye. Are you frustrated by a lack of momentum in your business? Do you want real-time guidance and support from seasoned entrepreneurs who really care about your results? If you're nodding your head or awkwardly shouting yes in public somewhere, then we invite you to join Lifestyle Builders, a mentorship program designed to meet you where you are and give you strategic and custom guidance so you can build the business you need for the life you crave. You can find out more at joinlifestylebuilders.com.
Your life, your business, your way. Join Family Entrepreneur Life. Join Family Entrepreneur